This court is now in session. We are here to hear the case against General Anton Grigorov, charged with the war crimes under Article 8 of the Rome Statute. Prosecutors, you may begin with your opening statements.
Your Honor, today we stand before this esteemed court to seek justice for the innocent victims of senseless act of violence. General Anton Grigorov, a high-ranking military commander, is accused of committing grievous war crimes during the civil conflict in Sarkova. The charges against him are severe and specific. He was accused of targeting civilians, disproportionate attacks, and destructions of protected civilian objects. Our case will demonstrate that this airstrike blatantly violated the principle of international humanitarian law. We will present compelling evidence including eyewitnesses, testimony from the survivors, satellite imagery of the destructions, and intercepted military communications that reveal the orders given by General Grigorov. Eyewitnesses in international humanitarian law will clarify how this action constitutes war against under Article 8 of the Rome Statute. Justice for Sarkova demands accountability. We urge this court to hold General Grigorov responsible for the choices that lead to this needless loss of life.
Defense, you may now present your opening statement.
Your Honors, General Grigorov stands accused of serious charges, and we do not take these allegations lightly. However, we must consider the context in which these events occurred. Sarkova was in midst of brutal civil conflict, and the town in question was a known rebel stronghold. The evidence will show that the rebels were using civilian areas, including hospitals and schools, as shields. It is a practice known as human shielding. General Grigorov's decision to order the airstrike was a calculated military action aimed at neutralizing a significant threat. It was not intended to target civilians, but to strike at the heart of rebel operations. We will present testimony from military personnel who observed the rebels' activities, intercepted communication, proving the use of civilian infrastructure for military purposes. An expert in military strategy will explain the concept of military necessity, underscoring that while the loss of civilian life is tragic, it was an unavoidable consequence of the rebels' tactics. Your Honor, General Grigorov acted within the bounds of his duty to protect the greater good. We ask you to consider the complexities of modern warfare and the imminent threat posed by the rebels. Justice must account for the necessity of the actions taken under the circumstances.
Thank you. We will now proceed with the presentation of evidence.
Your Honor, I now call to the stand Miss Yelena Bosco, a survivor of the airstrike that struck Sarkova Elementary School. She will testify about the attack, the presence of rebels in the area, and the lack of warning and rescue of the military.
Ms. Bosco, you are reminded that you are under oath, and your testimony is critical to this court's proceedings. Please recall to the best of your knowledge the events leading up to the following the airstrike of Sarkova.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Yelena Bosco. I was a teacher of Sarkova Elementary School. The days leading up the attack were tense. We had heard rumors of rebel activity near the outskirts of town, and some believed they had moved into civilian areas, including our school and the hospitals, but we have no confirmations. On the morning of the airstrike, I was in the classroom with the children aged 7 to 10 when the first explosion tore through the air. them, but the structure was crumbling around us.
Miss Bosco, can you confirm whether the military issued any warning to the civilian before the airstrike?
No, Your Honor. There were no warnings. We were caught completely off guard. Even their wearables nearby, they should have warned us. We could have evacuated the children.
Did you or any other civilians attempt to communicate with the military about the presence of the rebels in the schools and hospitals?
Yes, we reported it to the local authorities days before the airstrike, but nothing was done. Instead of addressing the situation, they launched the indiscriminate attack. They knew civilians were those buildings.
Miss Bosco, could you describe the aftermath of the attack? How did it impact to the survivor and the community?
The aftermath was devastating. Children who survived lost their families and friends. The hospital was destroyed. Leaving the injured without care. Families were shattered.
Your Honor, Miss Bosco's testimony highlights the military's failure to uphold the principle of international humanitarian law. The absence of warnings and lack of measurements to spare civilians from harm resulted in unnecessary suffering. This attack was a tragic violation of the principle of distinction, proportionality, and precaution.
Thank you, Ms. Bosco, for your testimony. You may step down.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call its second witness, Miss Yvonne Barrio. She was working as a volunteer medic at the hospital during the time of the attack. Her testimony will provide crucial insight into the failure to issue warning and the impact on civilian infrastructure.
Lingkod. Ms. Baronov, you are reminded that you are under oath and your testimony is crucial to this case. Please tell the court what happened during the airstrike, especially regarding your role at the hospital.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Yvonne Barno. I am a nurse at Sarcaba Hospital. On the morning of the airstrike, the hospital was filled with at least 150 civilians, elderly people, sick patients, and children who had sought shelter from the ongoing conflict. We had no reason to believe anything would happen to us. There was no warning, no indication of what was to come.
Miss Barano, you mentioned that there were civilians in the hospital. Was there any military presence at the time of the attack?
No. No, Your Honor. There were no soldiers at the hospital. It was purely a civilian space. We were there to treat the sick and wounded. And that was all. No weapons, no military activity, just civilians trying to survive.
Miss Barano, were there any indication that the legal forces were using the hospitals or surrounding area for military purposes?
No, Your Honor. The hospital was a sanctuary for civilians, not a military base. We had no involvement in the fighting. The people who sought refuge, they were running from the violence, not contributing to it. If there were signs of any rebel presence, either inside the hospital or in the area around it, the army could have given warnings and coordinated with us.
Miss Barano, can you describe the aftermath of the attack? What did you see after the explosion?
The hospital was a ruin. There was nothing left standing. The walls were gone. The roof caved in. The injured who had survived the first explosion were not trapped under it. We tried to help, but the destruction was too much. We couldn't reach the victims. There was no way to save them. It wasn't just the hospital. Every building in the area had been hit. It was as if the town itself had been erased.
Miss Barano, can you tell me what happened to the survivors after the airstrike?
The survivors? We had nothing left. We had no way to treat them. We couldn't get them out of the wreckage. The entire town had been shattered. There was no medical support. People were left to fend for themselves. It felt as if the town has been abandoned for everyone. By the military, by the world. We were all alone. We were civilians. We were not involved in the conflict. All we wanted was to protect the people who came for us, who came to ask for help. But the airstrike didn't care. It didn't care who was inside, who was suffering. It hit all of us without warning, without mercy. It didn't matter who we were.
Miss Barano, based on your experience, do you believe the attack on the hospital was justified in any way?
No, Your Honor. This was not a legitimate military strike. The destruction of Sarkova, the loss of life, could have been avoided if only there had been proper warnings. If the army had done anything to save us, but they didn't.
Thank you, Miss Baranov. You may step down.
Your Honor, Ms. Baranov's testimony, like that of Ms. Bosco, reveals the indiscriminate nature of the attack on Sarkova. The hospital, a protected civilian object, was targeted without any military justification. The principles of distinction and proportionality under international humanitarian law were violated, and as a result, civilians, including the sick and the elderly, suffered immeasurably.
Your Honor, the prosecution now submits crucial evidence to substantiate the charges against General Grigorov. This includes satellite imagery and intercepted military communications obtained through authorized intelligence channels. The satellite imagery clearly shows the locations of Sarkova Elementary School and Sarkova Hospital, both of which were struck during the airstrike. These structures were in densely populated civilian areas with no visible signs of military infrastructures.
In addition to the satellite imagery, Your Honor, we present intercepted communication between military officers involved in the operation. These communications were obtained through a post-conflict investigation led by international monitors and cooperations with the Sarkova government.
The evidence unequivocally shows that these actions violated the core principles of international humanitarian law. The prosecution will now call upon an expert in international humanitarian law to explain how these actions breach the principles of distinction and proportionality.
The court will now hear from the expert witness on international humanitarian law. Please state your name and qualifications for the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Dr. Alexandra Volkov. I am a professor of international law at the University of Moscow, specializing in international humanitarian law. I have been involved in numerous cases concerning violation of IHL and have advised various governmental and non-governmental organizations on the protection of civilians in armed conflict. The principles of distinction and proportionality are fundamental to the laws of armed conflict. The principle of distinction requires that parties to a conflict distinguish between civilian objects and civilian objectives. Civilian objects, such as schools and hospitals, must not be attacked unless they are being used for military purposes. As for the principle of proportionality, It requires that the anticipated harm to civilians and civilian objects must not be excessive in relation to the concrete and direct military advantage anticipated. In this case, the airstrike on Sarkova, which led to the destruction of the school, the hospital, and the deaths of the countless civilians, clearly violated this principle. The harm inflicted far outweighed any military advantage gained.
Thank you, Dr. Volkov, for your testimony. Your Honor, the evidence presented today from satellite imagery to intercepted communications and expert analysis demonstrates a clear violation of international humanitarian law. The actions taken during the airstrike on Sarkova were indiscriminate, unlawfully targeting civilian objects and resulting in the deaths and suffering of innocent civilians.
Thank you, Prosecutor. The evidence presented is substantial and will be carefully considered in our deliberations. We will now proceed to the next phase of the trial.
Your Honor, the defense now presents evidence to challenge the prosecution's narrative. To provide critical insights, we call Captain Ivan Sokolov, a senior intelligence officer who observed the situation on the ground in Sarkova leading up to the operation. His testimony will shed light on the operational context and the presence of rebel forces in the targeted area.
Captain Sokolov, please state your name, rank, and role within the military for the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Captain Ivan Sokolov. I serve as an intelligence officer for the Sarkova Defense Battalion. My primary responsibilities include reconnaissance, monitoring enemy movements, and assessing optional risks.
Captain Sokolov, can you describe the operational circumstances in Sarkova prior to the airstrike?
Certainly, in the weeks leading up the operation, Sarkova was under siege. Intelligence report, including surveillance footage and local informants' accounts, confirmed that the Rebel Alliance had 45 positions in civilian areas, specifically in the northern sector. These forces had strategically chosen the Sarkova High School and Sarkova Hospital as the basis, using them as shields to deter military action.
Can you confirm that those rebel forces were indeed seen near the location, specifically in school and hospital?
Yes, Your Honor, on multiple occasions. We observed armed rebels near the school and hospitals.
Captain Sokolov, you are acknowledged. This is General Anton Grigorov. Initiate airstrike. Drop the bomb. Kill all the rebels.
What about the civilians?
Just follow my command, Captain.
Captain Sokolov, can you explain the significance of these rebel activities and how they influence military decision-making?
The significance is clear, Your Honor. The rebels were using the school and hospitals as operational bases, which made these locations legitimate military targets. We had no choice but to take actions to minimize their positions. We knew the civilians were within the area, but the deliberate placement of combatants, civilian structures forced us into the economically difficult situations.
Given this context, Captain Sokolov, what was the military's assessment of the necessities upon targeting these sites?
The assessment was clear. We have to utilize the rebel stronghold in civilian structures. The risk of further attacks on both civilians and military personnel was too great. We understood the potential damage, but the rebels' action left us with no other choice. The laws of armed conflict provide that such actions are necessary when dealing with an enemy that deliberately hides behind civilians.
Thank you, Captain Sokolov. No further questions, Your Honor. Your Honor, the defense rests its case for this segment of proceedings.
Your Honor, Ms. Alina Carol, a correspondent present during the event in Sarkova, has requested to address the court. She claims her testimony directly contradicts the defense presentation.
This is an unusual request, but the court is committed to uncovering the truth. Ms. Kiro, please approach the bench.
Your Honor, we must object to this sudden inclusion. The defense was not informed of this testimony and has no opportunity to prepare.
Your objection is noted. The court will determine the relevance of Ms. Kirov's testimony after hearing a preliminary statement. Proceed, Ms. Kirov.
Your Honor, I was on the ground in Sarkova during the events in question. Captain Sokolov's testimony does not align with what I witnessed. As a war correspondent, I recorded both visual and audio evidence that I believe is critical to this court's understanding of what happened.
Your Honor, we support Ms. Kirov's testimony. If she possesses evidences contradicting defense narrative, it is imperative that the court will consider this.
Your Honor, while we respect the pursuit of truth, introducing testimony without prior notice undermines the defense's ability to respond effectively. We request a brief recess to review any evidence Ms. Kirov intends to present.
The court will allow Ms. Kirov to testify. However, we will take 15-minute recess for both parties to review the evidence. Ms. Kirov, please remain prepared to present your account. Ms. Kirov, you may proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor. I disagree with Captain Sokolov's assertion that the military took all available precautions to minimize harm. While the rebels did occupy civilian structures, I witnessed instances where warnings were insufficient and evacuation routes were inadequately secured.
Your Honor, we request to cross-examine Ms. Kirov immediately following her statement.
You will have your opportunity, Counselor. Continue, Ms. Kirov.
I have recordings of local civilians pleading for safe passage and receiving no response. These people were trapped, caught between two forces, with no way out. While I understand the military's need to act, their methods were not as precise or humane as claimed.
The court will now proceed to the cross-examination phase. Prosecutor, you may now begin.
Captain Sokolov, you testified that you observed the rebel forces near the Sarkova Elementary School and Sarkova Hospital. Can you confirm that you personally observed this location through a telescope during the days leading up to the airstrike?
Yes, Your Honor. I was positioned at my office. Observing through my telescope, we directly monitored the school and hospital for rebel activity.
So, Captain, you did not rely on any informant or intelligence report for this? It was purely based on what you saw through your telescope?
Correct. I saw the rebel force myself. I saw them directly near the school and hospitals, carrying weapons and holding supplies.
So, Captain, isn't it true that your observations were limited to just the visual aspect? You did not have any confirmation that the civilians in those buildings were directly in danger, did you?
I saw rebels moving stealthily within the vicinity of the hospital and school, carrying weapons and equipment. However, my observation did not directly confirm the exact danger to civilians inside the buildings.
So basically, you based the decision to target the school and hospital on observations alone, without verifying the presence of civilians in immediate danger. Isn't that a failure to apply the precautionary principles of international humanitarian law? Shouldn't civilians' protection have been your first priority?
We assist the operation of threat. The rebels were using civilian buildings as shields. The decision of strike was based on the need to neutralize the threat. There wasn't time to verify further.
So it was military advantage that was prioritized over the safety of civilians. Captain, you choose to proceed with the attack without first providing any warning to the people inside the school and hospitals, didn't you?
No warning was issued. The situation was urgent, and we needed to act before the rebels could escalate their positions.
So, you prioritize military success over the lives of civilians, knowing that there were people in those buildings. You could have given them a chance to evacuate, but instead, you proceeded without regard for their safety. Does that not violate the principle of distinction under international humanitarian law?
In hindsight, I understand the concerns, but at the time, the immediate leader posed where the rebels made official felt necessary. I believe the waiting for confirmation could have put us all at greater risk.
Captain, your decision was calculated risk, wasn't it? You chose to disregard the civilians' risk for the sake of military expediency. This clearly violated international humanitarian law precautionary principle, which demands measures be taken to minimize harm to civilians. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, in hindsight, more could have been done to protect civilians, but the decision was made with the information available at the time.
Okay. No further question, Your Honor.
Defense, you may proceed.
Ms. Bosco, thank you for your testimony. I understand the devastation you have experienced. However, I must ask, did you personally observe any rebel activity within the school in the days leading up to the airstrike?
No, I didn't see rebels, but the military had no rights to attack without warning us.
Ms. Bosco, would you agree that had been rebels been present, the school could have become a legitimate target under the laws of armed conflict?
No target is legitimate if it's full of children and teachers with no way out. The military didn't try to protect us. They condemned us.
I understand your grief, Ms. Bosco. But would you agree that the rebels, if present, endangered the lives of civilians by occupying the school?
The rebels did not drop those bombs. The military did. And they did it without warning. That's the only truth that matters.
The court will take a 10 minutes recess. We will reconvene to hear further arguments. The court is now in session. Having heard the testimonies and cross-examination, we will proceed to the closing arguments.
Your Honor, this case is not just about the devastation in Sarkova. It is about the accountability. It is about the duty of this and command to protect the innocent, even amidst of the chaos of war. The principle of distinction requires separating some combatants from civilians. The principle of proportionality demands equipping the harm to civilians against the military advantage. In Sarkova, these principles were not just ignored, they were crumpled apart. Your Honor, the evidence presented, testimony, intercepted communications, and the lack of precautions paints a clear picture of reckless disregarding for human life. This was not an unbearable tragedy. It was preventable atrocity. Your Honor, the evidence will show that the lives lost and the suffering caused were not the result of legitimate military necessity, but a gross disregard for human life. We urge this court to hold General Grigorov accountable for his action and to deliver justice for the victims.
Your Honor, war is a theater of impossible choices. While the events in Sarkova are undeniably tragic, they must be understood within the harsh realities of modern conflict. The rebels in Sarkova deliberately used civilians as shields, exploiting their preference to deter military action. This is not a speculation, but it is supported by intelligence and eyewitnesses accounts. General Gregorov and his forces faced an imminent threat to the region. To act meant risking civilian lives, a tragedy. To delay empowering the rebels to wreak further havoc. In the end, a decision had to be made. Your Honor, the prosecution's arguments focused solely on the consequences, not the context. Military necessity drove these actions, not malice, not recklessness. Condemning General Gregorov disregards the impossible dilemmas inherent in such operations. We ask this court to weigh these complexities and recognize that General Gregorov acted to protect the greater good, even at devastating cost.
The court will now deliberate. A verdict will be rendered shortly. After a thorough, careful review of the evidence, the testimonies provided by the prosecutions and argument made by the defense, this court is prepared to render its verdict. General Anton Gregorov, you stand accused of war crimes under Article 8 of Rome Statute, specifically violations of principles of distinctions and proportionality, as well as failing to take adequate precautions to protect civilians in the time of armed conflict. Under the principle of distinction, parties to a conflict are obligated to distinguish between civilian objects and military objects. The school and hospital of Sarkova, which were directly impacted by the airstrike, are protected civilian objects under international humanitarian law. These buildings should not have been targeted unless they were being used for military purposes. Despite the claims of the defense, no visual confirmations was provided to the court that rebel forces were actively using these locations for military purposes at the time of the strike. So the testimony of Ms. Bosco and Ms. Abarno confirmed that civilians, including children and the elderly, were seeking shelter in these structures. After carefully considering all the facts, the court finds General Anton Grigorov guilty of war crimes, specifically the deliberate targeting of civilians' infrastructure in violation of international humanitarian law, including the principles of distinction, proportionality, and precaution. This court finds the actions taken by General Gregorov were not only reckless but also negligent, as they disregarded the fundamental protections provided under the laws of armed conflict. In accordance with the findings, General Gregorov is sentenced to 25 years of detention for his role in ordering the airstrike on civilian targets. Furthermore, under Article 75 of the Rome Statute, the court orders that reparations be made to the victims and their families to compensate for the devastating losses suffered by civilian population of Sarkova. These reparations should include medical aid, compensation for the families of those killed, and funds for rebuilding the infrastructure destroyed in that time. So ordered.